If you were a superhero, who would you be and why? Anybody? Andre? Who would you be? Tuba Man. It's a fundamental question. And it's one that deals with the idea of fantasy, but it also deals with the idea of self-image. In 1979, I bought my first comic book. And it was Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man number 32 that introduced the iguana, but I'm not going to go in and tell you all about the things that would happen, because 40 years of collecting, I know a lot. But the idea started there, and I started reading, and I started drawing, and I started engaging around those. And the ideas that come from that, if you were a superhero, who could you be? And so from that, what I came up with was a way to engage and enjoy. It was a passion of mine. And at first I thought it was me. Reading comic books, being characters, drawing. I helped pay my way through Morehouse College doing artwork on clothes and sketches. And I began to look around and see that there was something more to this than just what I was looking at. As I began to look around and see, I saw that every single successful African-American man I knew grew up reading comic books. There was the police chief in the town that I was in. There was the local pastor. Barack Obama is a Spider-Man and Conan fan. So all through it, it said to me, there's something here that reaches across barriers, that reaches across ethnicities, across genders, across orientation, that reaches in and says, here are things that you can find. Here are the connections. And I said, there's got to be more that can be done with this. There's got to be something along these lines that it could work with young people to help them find positive paths in life, focus in on engagement, focus in on ways of personal development. Now, it seems silly. I'm standing up here in a costume, the kids sit around reading comic books, but what you find in impacted communities where there may not be positive role models, where there may be strife, a chance to escape, a chance to be inspired, a chance to look and learn and find different ideas. And so with that, I started developing this idea around Project Superhero, around a way to focus in on helping youth find positive paths, helping youth to grow and become the people who they needed to be, the heroes who they needed to be, and focusing in on the key aspects of development around that. And so out of that came this idea of Project Superhero and focusing in on different modules. And it's a piece that connects in so many ways. Some of the modules we use are how to be a hero, talking about the origin story and focusing in on character development. And as you read the origin stories, as you take a young person and you develop, what superhero would you be? You can map between them and who inspires them. Who's their hero? Within the pages of comic books, you can find literally examples of every situation. No matter what you're dealing with, no matter what they may be dealing with or grappling with, they can find inspiration. They can find a character that they love, be it Captain Marvel, Captain America, Spider-Man, or Black Panther. And part of that, within the Wakandan principles, it talks about every child has a purpose. And every community comes together around this idea. And so we started mapping out the connections between that, creating modules around how to be a hero. As you talk about your origin story, you talk about why you do things, what you connect into, what makes an inspiration. We had a young girl named Kaylee who wanted to be a superhero who could change the color of anything because her community was dirty. And she thought she'd beautify her community and being able to change the color, make it look brighter. We had a young man named Bobby who really wanted to have sonic powers, maybe like Tuba Man, that would go ahead and give him voice because he had been bullied and he had been silenced. And so drawing a character, creating a character, was able to come through and fictionalize what they want it to be, and in doing that, teach them how to develop those skills. Teach them how to go ahead and map on up to being the best that they can be. We have other modules like our comic book clubs. Comic book clubs are largely join in. That's Zamora up there, who really likes comic books. And we play activities like Superhero Jeopardy, but we give them free comic books. We give them out in the parades. And what you have in those is kids who may not be able to read too good. And so they go ahead and they learn to read, and then they can read more better, and go forward. And find inspiration. I had a couple kids who were throwing rocks around in front of our building, and I pulled them in and I gave them some comic books. I said, take these with you, come back in a week, tell me what's in them, we'll talk about them, and I'll give you more. And they did that all summer. And it's ways of deterring them from doing different things that can be negative, and then also helping them to engage. J.J. Hill Montessori does a food drive for us every March. And the kids come together and they collect food, and then they carry the food out and put it in there. Now, if you're gonna have heroes, you gotta have a bad guy. So we created Professor Poverty. Now, Professor Poverty, and this is my Director of Finance and Operations, who unfortunately has to do this. Other duties as assigned. So Professor Poverty wants to steal all the good food and give away the bad, and give them with bad food. And so he's got his own nutrition pyramid scheme, where he replaces good foods with high fructose corn syrup, or breads and pizzas as the major groups. What it allows us to do is engage with the young people and teach them lessons. In the March campaign, we get in Twitter battles with the U of M SNAP Nutrition Program, where Professor Poverty will talk about these bad things, and it sets us up as a foil to help them promote good nutrition. And we can talk about that. And then Professor Poverty has to help load up the food as his penance for being a bad guy. So you're also teaching moral lessons. But further, you get people who engage and help. You don't do this work alone. We have Guardian Angels Church who comes in and helps us sort the comic books so that we can give those out. Hands on Twin Cities organizes volunteers from corporate groups like Target to create capes for us that we can give out to young people. Minnesota Superheroes United and Customers for a Cause are some of the other groups that we work with that come in and do our festivals and do our organizations, and they're people who visit Children's Hospital. They do a lot of volunteer work out in the community, and it really helps to engage. When you see a young person light up because they get to meet their hero, they get to see Wonder Woman or Batman or Spider-Man and hang out with that and connect. It changes their perspective, and a lot of times it changes their lives. We go into aspects of creating heroes and then training them to be heroes, looking at exposure that they can get to artwork, to writing, to other kinds of things, so that as they're looking for inspiration in their community, if they live in some place that's negative, if they don't have enough connection in the home, they can find them in the pages here, and then they can find them with the volunteers that we have and be able to find a new direction, a new path. And beyond that, we get adults who engage on this. We have adults that we give out comic books who don't want to admit that they may not be able to read well. And so we give them comic books, and they can take those and they can learn, or they volunteer or they engage. And what you have is this utilization of pop culture as a way to connect, to inspire, to go ahead and build up the resilience, build up the self-development for young people, and be able to find something that is meaningful, not only within themselves, but that they can connect to out in the world. Now, this may seem taxing a lot of times, but for me, it's something I can do all day. And what you sometimes will find is you never know who is going to go ahead and give you words of encouragement. Thank you.
Hey JP, it's Mark Ruffalo. Thanks for being an Avenger, a real-life superhero for all those kids out there and bringing them all those gifts and supporting their education.
Love you, JP.